Hello, and welcome to another episode of Disrupt Your Now, the show for entrepreneurs who are ready to shake things up. Now, those of you who are familiar with me and the show know that I usually have a guest on, and we have a conversation about their entrepreneurial journey and the things that they've learned and ways that you can learn from it. But a while back, I did a show that was based on my book, my latest book, Disrupt Your Now, the Successful Entrepreneur's Guide to Reimagining Your Business and Life. And what I did was I talked about the first two parts of this book, which are basically learning more about yourself and what you really, really want out of your business and out of your life. And the second part is about surrounding yourself with the right people who can help you get to where you want to be. Now, when I say the right people who can help you get to where you want to be, I don't mean people that you can use. I mean people that you click with, that you can learn from, that who have been where you want to go and can help you push you to or inspire you to get to that level. And also people who maybe are at your level that you can, be each other's cheerleaders. But what you don't want to do is surround yourself with people who are going to drag you down and people that know less than you do. Doesn't mean you have to ditch people and leave them behind, but you really do need to constantly push yourself. So tonight I'm going to talk about the last half of the book, and I'm using my newest book, the workbook that goes with Disrupt Your Now. It's called Disrupt My Now. I'm using that to as a guide to help y'all think more about these specific parts that we're going through. So after learning more about yourself and understanding what you really want out of your business and life, and learning more about surrounding yourself with the right people, you need to start thinking more creatively. So I'm going to read you a quote from Albert Einstein, and you probably think of him as, this person with their head in the clouds, but also their nose in the books. And I love this quote from him. I never made one of my discoveries through the process of rational thinking. And I think a lot of times the reason that we get so stuck in our business is because we're thinking too rationally. We're not taking a step back and just thinking of like the most crazy idea that we possibly can. We're thinking rationally and logically. And you know what? That's not the way that you make big breakthroughs. You make big breakthroughs by not only pushing yourself, but thinking outside of the boundaries. I'm not going to say the box, the boundaries. Just try to think about things in ways that you never have before. And so I have a trick that I use to help my clients and also myself come up with new ideas. And it's based on three questions. The first is why, the second is why not, and the third is the most powerful. It's what if. And it took me many years to realize that I just ask myself this naturally. I never thought about these three questions, but it's just a part of the way that I think inherently because my father was blind. So, for those of you who already know me, I apologize for repeating it, but daddy was blind and he did everything that he ever wanted to do. Never heard him say, I can't do that. He rode horses, he owned a business, he played basketball with us, he shot guns, he had a woodworking shop in our basement that he had a lathe and all that stuff. So he literally did everything that he wanted to do. Oh, and by the way, today at the post office, I ran into an old friend of his. He's like, yeah, some friends of mine and I were talking about your daddy last week, and we were talking about how we went to his cabin in the mountains with him, and everybody got lost but him because he knew from the curves and everything. He always knew exactly where he was. And, sighted people are so focused on the street signs, the road signs, and all that, that they were too focused on the details to look at the big picture. So that's just a little anecdote about him. But when you grow up in that environment, And as I said, it took me many, many years to understand this. But when you grow up in that environment, just by osmosis, you have to learn to think differently because you're constantly being challenged. Um, Daddy didn't talk to us. We never thought of him as being blind. We just always knew that we had to do things differently to um, do the things that he wanted to do in the ways that he could do them. We weren't conscious of it though. So I'm going to give you an example from my clients, one of my clients, and this is from 27 years ago, 25 years ago. Um, so I was already a web developer at that time, and one of my clients had a set of technical guides that were out of print, and she could not afford to take them back to print. So she was going to go bankrupt. And so I was determined that I was going to help her not let that happen. So my first question was, why? Why are you paying for the books? Why are you paying to have them republished? Let's figure out a way that you don't have to come up with the money yourself. So that's kind of like, throw that to the side. That's not that big a deal. But then I was like, why not figure out a way that you can turn this into something that could be built on continuously, and that you wouldn't have to publish a new book every several years, have to come up with the money to do that. And what if you could constantly update it? And what if it didn't even have to be printed? And she was like, hello, because it's a book, it has to be printed. And of course, she looked at me like I had three heads. And I'm like, yeah, but we have the internet now. So you can figure out a way, we can figure out a way to use the internet to overcome this problem that you have. So what we ended up doing was develop. I hope I'm not losing this signal. I apologize. Um, what we ended up doing was developing one of the very first subscription based businesses that was not an internet service provider or something similar. She was able to go on and constantly add new products to this. It was a technical guide for her industry. She was able to constantly add new products to it. So it helped the people in her industry, it helped those professionals much more than if they had to wait 2 or 3 years for a new volume to be added on. And it helped her because she didn't have to wait and put all this work into a book and then figure out how she was going to come up with the money to print it. Now, we did still do the book, we did still publish the book, but the point is, she had a whole new revenue stream. And not only was it a new revenue stream, it was recurring revenue because these were professionals who paid for a subscription based service. So that's an example of why not, and what if. And if you challenge yourself to think that way all the time, you will gradually get to the point that your what ifs become much crazier than they would today. They become like how I said, she looked at me like I had three heads. Your what ifs are going to get to the point that people are like, that person is crazy. But no, that's the way that you come up with really great ideas. So that's my first thing about thinking creatively. If you challenge yourself every day to something that you're doing, think why not, and what if, you will start to learn to think differently. Now, the next thing I want to say about that is for you to look for areas where other people in your industry have become complacent. Because what happens is everybody's doing things the same way. And they're all doing things the same way because that's the way that they think they're supposed to be done because everybody else is doing them that way. So they're just trudging along. And if you can take that step back, like I mentioned, and go, well, why are we doing it this way? And is there another way that we can do it? And, just try to break that mold. The hardest thing to do, one of the hardest things to do, is not only break out of your own mold, but break out of your industry's mold. Stop looking at all the other businesses around you and mimicking what they're doing, and start thinking for yourself. Start thinking in ways that if you didn't know anything at all about your business, try to pretend like you're somebody who knows nothing about it and try to look at it in that way. And that might help you come up with new ideas. So, the next thing I want to talk to you about is to try to solve the customer's pain rather than trying to make them understand your product. Because if you have to constantly explain the product to them, you're spending so much time explaining that their eyeballs are going to roll up in their head and they're going to be glazed over. And hey, don't, I know because I've been there, been there and done that, especially if you're doing things differently than other people are. A lot of times you can get bogged down into talking about the how you're doing it, but instead focus on the why you're doing it and the difference that you're going to make in their life. And when you can do that, when you can make what you offer about them instead of about you, they're not going to care how you're doing it or why you're doing it that way or anything else. All they're going to care about is, oh my gosh, this person can help me get the end result that I really want. They can take me from here to there, and I don't care what happens in between. All I care about is that here's my pain point over here, and I want to be over here where I don't have this pain point. So try to think about your business in that way. What is the major pain point that you want to be able to solve for your clients? And how are you going to get them there? What is their end result going to be? How are you going to get them there in a way that's different from your competitors? Um, this is one of the things that I preach a lot. A lot of people feel like there's nothing about them that makes them unique. Especially people, that you're an accountant or whatever like that. You think, oh, everybody does, everybody's adding up the same numbers. But here's the thing, you are the only person in the world who has you're the only person in the world who has your unique set of experiences. So that makes you the only person in the world that's perfect for somebody out there. For example, myself, I have a really wide, varied background. I used to be an accountant. I started my web development company in 95 or 96, started developing sites in 95, started the business in 96. But the whole time I've been running the business, I was raising two kids and caring for my father-in-law who had Alzheimer's. For he lived with us for about 8 years. And then as soon as I got my kids raised and they moved out of the house and it was going to be my time, sadly my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So here I am back again, um, having to adapt my business to something. So there are very, very few people who've been through what I have in all my years of business. And this is why I focus so much on building an adaptable business. Because to me, no matter how successful your business is, if it cannot adapt to the changes in your life and the changes in the marketplace, the business isn't going to last. So that makes me one of the only people in the world that can help somebody who has a similar background to me. If somebody has never had to be a caregiver for a parent with Alzheimer's or something like that, and all of a sudden they do, and they're like, oh my God, I have a business. How am I ever going to do this? I can help not only walk them through the logistics of how they can do it. I've been there, I've done that, and I can actually help them feel better about it. So that's an example of my end of how I'm different and how I'm a unique solution for some people. So think about the things in your life that make you very unique and that give you experience and talents that other people don't have, and use those in a way to be able to communicate with your perfect clients in a way that lets them know that you can help them uniquely. Oops, sorry. I'm going to skip ahead. So, the next thing I want to talk about is finding the sweet spot. When you can find the sweet spot where you can deliver the most value to your clients and you can get the most value yourself, that's a key to developing a profitable niche. But when I say the most value to yourself, everybody, the definition of value is different to everybody. So, to some people, their definition of their value, the value that they want to get out of providing this service, is strictly the money. I want to do the highest price work that I can possibly do, and I don't care about anything else. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But everybody's different. For me, my highest value is, yes, I want to make money. I have to have money to pay my bills, but I want to make a difference in people's lives, and I want to be able to be there for my family and my friends when they need me. That is one of the major things. The second part is one of the major reasons that I started my web development company in the first place, because even when it was back in the dial up days, I understood this is something I could do from anywhere. It doesn't matter. I do not have to be in the same town as somebody to be able to work with them. So think about what are the most important things to you as an individual, and try to find that sweet spot. As I said, how you can deliver the highest value to your clients and you can get the highest value yourself. Whatever you value the most, money, family, whatever, that perfect blend of the things that you value the most, that is where you're going to find your perfect niche. Here is a trick from one of my friends, Jeff Moore, who was on the show a while back. I'll put a link to the show in the show notes. Jeff is a master at helping people figure out what they do, because it is really hard for us to be able to concisely say what we do. Most people get tied up in the thing that they do, not so much how they do it and the benefit that they deliver to others. So this is Jeff's formula. Create a strong yet short introduction for yourself and what you do or want to do in an ideal situation that creates curiosity. So here's the formula. I provide whatever type of service for your ideal client, a description of them, so they can have whatever without something, whatever their pain is. And then you get extra points if you can add, my clients typically get whatever they get in a certain amount of time, whatever amount of time, or they go from here to here. Like for me, that last part, I say my clients typically get at least an idea of how they can reach their goals within the first 30 minutes of talking with me. And the reason that is just because I do think differently. So I tend to ask them the types of questions that other people want, because I'm a weirdo. It's just fun. But so I'm going to repeat that formula. And as I said, it's from Jeff Moore. I'm going to repeat it so you can write it down if you want. I provide whatever type of service you provide, something that people can understand for your ideal client. And that could be what they do, their age, their problem, whatever, whoever your ideal client is, so they can have whatever you want to deliver without whatever the pain is that they're experiencing or that they're afraid of experiencing. And then the extra points are, if you can add, my clients typically get whatever you can help them get in X amount of time. And the reason you do that is because that kind of clarifies, it crystallizes to people what you can deliver. Or you can say your clients typically go from whatever to whatever, that bridge. You're providing that bridge. So they go from this is where they're at now, this is where they want to be, and you're helping them get from point A to point B. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the episode where I had Jeff on, because I think you'll really enjoy his episode. He's also a master at developing really long-term relationships with clients. So you'll learn a lot from him. Okay, the next section is starting and doing. To me, this is kind of like the most boring part because a lot of the stuff is, the things that you have to think of, the drudgery, um, the like, who can you hand things off to and all that. That stuff is boring to me. So I'm going to try to talk about the things that you might not think about otherwise. But first, here is a quote from Henry David Thoreau. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundation under them. So the lesson is don't be afraid to dream. Dream big, but then figure out a way that you can make your dreams reality. So there are two common ways that entrepreneurs fail in running their businesses. Those two ways are they have great ideas, but they never act on them. We all know somebody like that. They have all these ideas and they've never done a darn thing. Or they're so busy working in their business that they don't have time to work on their business. Now, I think probably almost every entrepreneur has been guilty of that at some point, and I'm going to raise my hand because I'm really bad at that. I'm a great 30,000 foot person, but when I get down in the weeds, I can't get out because I get obsessed with the details. So I know that I have a problem with that, and I have to figure out ways that I can deal with it. But so the two most common problems, and you need to figure out whether you have one of these or both, you have great ideas, but you never act on them, and or you're so busy working in your business that you're not working on your business. And by working on your business, I mean figuring out the stuff we're talking about before. How can you provide the most value? Who do you really want to be working with? Um, excuse me. What do you want out of your business? And planning ahead for how you can get there, and planning ahead for if there is disruption, how can you adapt? One of the tricks that I have for myself, to make sure. Sorry, think I lost my signal for a second. One of the tricks that I have for myself to make sure that I get something done every day towards a bigger task that I want to do. Because I'll be honest, I'm one of these people, I'm kind of like all or nothing. I get totally obsessed with stuff. So when it's a long term thing, I kind of have to make myself do small things because I don't like little things. So what I do is I set a 10-minute milestone for myself every day. Every night I say, this is what I'm going to do for 10 minutes in the morning. Very first thing, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. And it might be something really simple or it might be something difficult, but whatever it is, I force myself to stop at 10 minutes. And the reason I do that is because, like I said, hey, I could easily start in the morning and be at midnight doing the same thing because I know I get so obsessed. So what I do, I have that 10 minutes, I set a timer and I make myself stop. And that way, that 10-minute milestone cannot take me away from the other things that I need to be doing. But I have done something small towards a big goal that I have. And it even works for working out. Whenever I get out of my habit of working out, I will say, okay, I'm going to do something for 10 minutes every day. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's marching in place in front of the TV, if it's walking up and down the stairs in the house for 10 minutes, if it's walking around my office on the phone, which I always pace when I'm on the phone anyway. But um, one day I was on the phone with somebody and I walked 5 miles. So it's really easy to set a 10-minute milestone for that. But any problem that you have, say, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes, and it'll help you kind of break out of your routine. Okay, I'm going to skip past some of the things that, like I said, are kind of more boring to me. The who can you hand things off to and stuff like that. But I want you to ask yourself, are you offering any services or products that are more trouble to you than they're worth? And I think all of us do that. Um, you know, and here I'll give you an example of that. A lot of times we try to be everything to everybody, and we don't want to turn down small projects, or we don't want to turn down certain types of clients. But what happens is we spend more time with those clients solving smaller problems than we could be with other clients solving bigger problems and making more money. So what we end up doing, we get frustrated. We're not making as much money. We're not able to help the people that we could really help on a bigger scale. And it becomes this self-fulfilling cycle where you're constantly just in this drudgery, and you really can get to the point that you resent those clients that you're helping that you probably shouldn't be in the first place, because there are other people who can do that lower level work, or whatever the reason is that you shouldn't be working with them. It might just be personality, but there are other people who could do that. So if you're spending your time and energy doing something you shouldn't be doing, think about all the people over here that would be perfect for you to be working with. And you could help them so much more, and you would be so much happier. The world would be a better place. So start thinking about that. Another thing is, are you providing any free services that you really should be charging for? So I will give you another example of myself. Because I've been an entrepreneur since 1990, and before that I was a CPA, and I was the controller of an international software company and all this stuff, I always, with a straight up web development project, I always approached it from the angle of strategy. And I would have, deep conversation with clients about what they want to get out of it, what they before I'm even working with them, before they've ever paid me a penny. We would have in excuse me, in the discovery meetings, I would have really deep conversations with them where I would give them lots of advice and lots of strategy. And what happened was, because they weren't paying for it, they didn't understand why it was so important. And they were not able to um, distinguish between me and other web developers. Excuse me, allergies. So I would give them this advice, and then they'd be like, oh, but this other person's cheaper. So they've gotten the free advice from me, and then they go work with the person who can make the logo bigger. And I'm sitting there so frustrated because I know I could have helped them so much. And so it's probably been about, sorry, there goes my signal again. It's probably been about 10 years ago. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to give people advice, even though it's really hard because I love to give advice. Um, I've forced myself to try to not help people too much initially, not because I want to be greedy, not because I want to get as much money as I can, but because I know that it's really not going to help them as much as if they're paying for it. That whole thing of you value what you pay for. And it also helps me weed out the people that I shouldn't be working with, because if they don't understand the difference in working with me and somebody else, the make the logo bigger people, then that's who they should be working with. And here's my buddy Adam. Hey, Adam Raymer Brown. he says he's evaluating that right now on what he has been giving away. And I know Adam, I know him very well. I've known him for years. And I guarantee you, Adam, I guarantee that you have been giving tons of IT advice away. Um, so, look, anybody out there that needs an IT expert, hook up with Adam on LinkedIn or Facebook, and but don't expect him to give you anything for free. And hey, Adam, thanks for joining tonight. So let's see where we're going next. Okay, here's another one. And this, well, first I'm going to tell you what it is. Are you providing break fix services that you could convert into a managed services offering that provides regular cash flow? So, a friend of mine owns an IT services company in the Raleigh area. As a matter of fact, he's been on Naked and Afraid a number of times. Wes Harper. So, y'all got to go check him out. But so he has a managed IT services business, but it used to be just IT services. And so somebody would have a problem, they would come to his company, they would fix it, and that was it. And the problem with that is you never know what your revenue is going to be. And people are coming in with things broken at the worst time possible for you. And it becomes frustrated for everybody. So Wes realized if I instead develop managed IT services, his company is basically their IT department, but they're not internal. So his company is always on top of their IT, and they know exactly what they need, and they are there to fix the problems before they ever even are a problem. So they're not fixing them, they're preventing them and avoiding them. So there isn't that level of frustration for the customers or for them. His company is able to know how much the revenue is going to be every month, and their clients know we're not going to have to worry that tomorrow everything is going to crash and we don't know when we're going to be able to get it fixed. So that's an example of break fix services. What are you doing that maybe people are only coming to you when when they have a problem? And how can you change that so that you are helping them preemptively prevent a problem? That's probably redundant, but whatever. You're helping them have a preemptive strike so they never have the problem. Or if they do, if the problem ever comes up, it's minimal because you've been there to be right on top of it. And then I also had, what services or products can you drop and be better off? There are lots of them, and I kind of touched on that, but I guarantee that all of y'all are offering something that isn't worth it. And what usually happens though, it's because you're looking at everybody else who's in your industry and you're going, oh my God, I got to do that. I got to do this. So in my industry, it's like, oh my God, okay, I own a web development company, but we have to create logos because people want them. And we have to create brochures and we have to do this and we have to do that. And yeah, we do it and we can do it and we do it really great, but that's not where my heart lies. And there's so many people that can do that. Hey, you can go on Fiverr or all kinds of sites out there and get it done really cheaply by people who are very, very talented, because you don't need that strategic insight to do straight up design like that. Now, I'm not saying that strategy shouldn't be part of that, but most small businesses don't appreciate the strategy that should be part of it. So it's not worth it for us to put that time and effort into it. So think about the things in your own business that you think about the things in your own business that you are really only doing because you feel like you have to because everybody else is. And I'm sorry again for repeating myself. My internet keeps spinning, so I never know when y'all are not seeing me or hearing me or when it's just me. So the final thing that I want to talk to y'all about is having a higher purpose. And on this, I'm going to give you a quote from Albert Schweitzer. I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. That does not mean being selfish. That does not mean giving everything away. That does not mean doing free work. What that means is having your business mean more than money. Whether your higher purpose is your family or whether your higher purpose is in your community or whatever, if your focus is only on how much money you can make, there is always somebody who has more money and it never ends. You never know your victory condition. You never know when yes, I'm on the way or I'm at where I want to be. You're constantly on that keeping up with the Joneses thing and you're miserable. And, if money were, hey, again, I love money too. So I don't mean that you shouldn't try to make money, but if money were the only thing, all these wealthy people in the world wouldn't be miserable. There are so many wealthy people that are just as miserable as poor people, and there are a lot of poor people who are really, really happy. So figure out what is important to you and what your higher purpose is. So for me, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, my higher purpose has always been my family and friends. I always wanted my business to be able to be adaptable so that I could be there for my family and friends when they needed me. Now, that has evolved through the years. First, it was my kids and my father in law, and of course, my husband. He's been there the whole time. We've been together, 36 years, 37 years now, I think. But first, raising my kids and caring for my father in law, then caring for my mother. But throughout all of that, my community was also very important to me, and the community changed based on where I was. So when my kids were little, their schools were part of my higher purpose. So I did things like in 96, 97, I took all the accelerated reader books at my kids' schools and put them into a database so that parents could search with their kids and make sure that kids were reading the books at the level that they were supposed to be. So that was something that was fun for me that gave me a way to hone my database skills and stuff like that, but it helped other parents and it also helped me because my son was always the type that was reading college level books, and yeah, he could read them, but I needed to know that he was reading the things that he was supposed to be in order to get the grades. Then as they got older, I've done things like work with a, a professional athletes wildlife foundation to help them use the internet in ways to raise money that they weren't able to do before. Now I work with Colin Garrett, the NASCAR driver. Those of you who are familiar with me know that we work together to help veterans, military families, and retirees um, reach the resources, have access to the resources that they need so that they can live their best life. And the access range from entrepreneurial type stuff to health. We're not reinventing the wheel, we're improving the access. But that's something that's really, really important to me now. And I spend a good part of my time on that. Yes, a lot of the work that I do for that is free, but I also get outside of the personal benefit, I also get a business benefit because it's a great way for me to be able to network with other entrepreneurs and other organizations that help entrepreneurs. So, this is my own feeling, and already said that. I believe, already said it, that I believe that the truly successful are the people who are able to do something that they love and make a living doing it. That you're happy and fulfilled doing something that you love and making a living doing. Now, you might not care. You might be all about the money, and hey, that's okay. But if that is you, you shouldn't work with me. So just giving you that little heads up. Um, I also believe that the ability to give a hand up is a privilege, and that campaigns, though, can serve a greater good while they're also delivering a return on your investment. So, like I mentioned a minute ago, even though I do a lot of work for free, I still get the benefit of meeting lots of really cool entrepreneurs. And you never know when I might meet that one right person that might be either a great strategic partner for me or a great client. Um, oh, Adam, thank you. Adam says, perfect timing on the show. I had the realization just this week that I don't have to do something just because someone asked me to. I have a choice to do work I want to do. Amen, Adam. I can tell you, I spent so many years trying to make everybody happy, and you cannot do it. So, like I talked about a few minutes ago, focus. Focus on what you really want to be doing, where you can deliver the highest value and you receive the highest value yourself, whether that is money or whether it's fulfillment or a combination. Let me see if I had anything else. Um, Lastly is your action plan. I'm not going to go through that. Basically, the action plan is just you taking, and I'm going to plug myself now because I wrote the book Disrupt Your Now, where I interviewed 50 entrepreneurs and I take lessons from each one of them. It's short stories about them. And I have a lesson from Lisa at the end of each story, a takeaway. I call it the bathroom book for business because there are all these short stories. So you can really pick it up and start from anywhere. And then I just published that's Disrupt Your Now. And I just published the workbook that goes with it called Disrupt My Now. And the reason that I did the workbook is because a lot of people read the book and they get really inspired, but they're kind of stuck. They don't know exactly what they do, and maybe they can't afford to work with me. So I wrote the workbook to help people kind of challenge themselves and asking these questions and writing down and thinking through things. And then at the end of the book, I have ways that it can help them develop an action plan. So I'm going to end with this. This episode is part 2 of building an adaptable business. And part 1 I did a while back, which I'll link to in the show notes. And what you need to decide is, what does an adaptable business mean to you? So for me, as I said earlier, an adaptable business for me means something that no matter what life throws at me, I can figure out a way to maneuver and keep my business going and do work that I love, but also be able to handle whatever comes at me personally. Other people building an adaptable business may mean that they want to build a business that they can sell one day. And so, therefore, their business being adaptable needs to be more focused on the marketplace and keeping that business constantly growing. So, you see, those are 2 totally different goals. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. I mean, I've sold 3 businesses in the past, but my focus on this business has never been to sell it. It's been make a living, but also be there for my family and friends. But for those of you that your focus is building a business to sell, there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want you to feel guilty. I don't want you to think that I'm going, oh, you're greedy. Because no, hey, that's a great thing. And I would love to work with you. But anyway, no matter what no matter what your goal is in life and in business, you have to build your business so that it is adaptable, or you won't be able to reach whatever your goals are for that business. So I hope that some of what I've talked about tonight has been helpful, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever with any questions that you might have. Or if you think you'd be a good guest for my show, reach out. I like to have people who've got really interesting backgrounds and who have overcome some type of problem so that other people can learn from them. So if you're one of those people that you feel like you could help somebody else learn to disrupt their now, reach out to me and maybe we'll. I don't know if you just lost me, but if you didn't hear that, reach out to me and maybe I'll have you on the show. Thanks for joining me tonight, and I will see you next week. Bye.